Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I'm in this Mercedes GLC, which I've borrowed from ALX over in Yorkshire, and I'll be trying to answer the question, should you buy one? Firstly, I think the thing you've got to bear in mind is that most small SUVs like this are about as exciting as a set of chest of drawers. Some might look very good from the outside, but then you step inside and take it for a drive, and you're quickly underwhelmed. Most are as disappointing as opening a box of Quality Street only to find a sewing kit. But don't worry though, I've got good news. This GLC is different. This is the purple one. This is the toffee penny. This is that little caramel stick thing that... Sorry, I'm getting distracted there thinking about Quality Street. Quick history lesson for you. The GLC has been around since 2015 and it ran all the way until 2022. This replaced the GLK. Now if you're British, you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, what's a GLK? Well, the GLK was a small Mercedes SUV which was available pretty much everywhere else in the world, bar in the UK. The name GLK kind of made sense as well, because remember how Mercedes used to put a K at the end of a model name when it made a smaller version of a larger car? You know, like the CLK was a small CL, or the SLK was a small SL, and so on. The GLK basically was a small GL, only it didn't bear much resemblance to its handsome sibling. In fact, it looked very similar to a Mitsubishi Shogun Pinin, crossed with a clog. Still, the fact it wasn't available in the UK I think was a big mistake. People love SUVs, especially smaller ones that are more affordable, but still have a prestigious badge on the grille. That's why from the moment I saw Mercedes were releasing a GLC, which this time around was going to be available in the UK, I knew it was going to be a success story. And I think it has been. You see them everywhere, they're very popular. And I can see why. Firstly, you've got the styling. It's a good looking car, this. I don't just mean good looking for an SUV, I mean good looking full stop. From every angle it looks just right. I think the proportions are perfect. From the front it looks aggressive. It's sort of angry looking. A bit like me in the morning when I get to the petrol station to find the coffee machine isn't working. From the side on and the back, it's genuinely pretty. Mercedes have pulled something off it which I didn't think was possible, in that it's both boxy and yet curvaceous. I'm currently driving through a little chocolate box village, and I don't feel arrogant in this, or obnoxious, like I would in a full-size Range Rover, or a Porsche Cayenne, or a Lamborghini Urus. For me, this is the Goldilocks of the Mercedes SUV range. Moving inside, it's everything you'd expect from a Mercedes. It's stylish, but it feels like a bit of quality. I like the red contrast stitching and the red seat belts. They just serve as a reminder that you're in something a bit porky, you know, something with a bit of pork. I think we're all familiar with this Mercedes interior by now. They've used it for about a decade, but it still looks current and up to date. I feel right at home in this because it's exactly like my AMG GT. I love the air vents and I love the design of the steering wheel. You also get plenty of storage. You've got two cup holders, a nice comfortable armrest with more storage underneath, decent sized door pockets, a good sized glove compartment, and there's also plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom, plenty of elbow room. The visibility is also very good. You sit up a little bit higher so you can see over the cars in front of you. But one thing that is weird is the location of the steering wheel. It just feels slightly too far to the left. If you've got a GLC, let me know if you found that in the comments below, because it just feels like it's about 2 inches too far that way. You almost drive it kind of like this, rather than like this. It's a bit odd. I suspect the left-hand drive cars don't have that problem. You get a nice big clear infotainment screen there. Now, I know many people don't like this bolt-on iPad style effect, but I do, always have. It's a feature, a focal point if you will. It's the automotive equivalent of a wallpapered chimney breast. Whilst the display might be clear, what's always a bit confusing is the infotainment system itself. I have a Mercedes myself with this same setup, and yet it still takes me a couple of minutes just to figure out where everything is every time I get in the car. Having said that, it might just be me because I hate technology, but it just isn't the most intuitive. Still, it's got everything that you need or want these days. Bluetooth streaming, digital DAB radio, sat-nav, reverse camera, all that sort of stuff. If you can find one with the Burmester audio system, then that is superb. There's no going back. But having said that, if you go for a genuine AMG model like this, then you might find that you turn the radio off quite a lot and just put it in sport mode. In terms of space, it scores very well too. Up front there's plenty of room, in the back there's plenty of room, although there is quite a large transmission tunnel, which does eat into the space in the middle. Although having said that, if you're thinking about buying one of these for yourself to drive, then that isn't really your problem, is it? Let's face it, your kids in the back are going to argue over something, so it might as well be who gets the middle seat. Moving back further still to the boot, that's quite impressive as well. It offers 550 litres of space with the seats up. And should you wish to drop the rear seats, for example when you're carrying a Christmas tree or a grandfather clock, then you can do so with ease. moving to the business end, this is where it gets really interesting. Tunnel. It's a beast, this little car. There are many different models available. Essentially, you've got a 4-cylinder petrol turbo, available in various states of tune, or a 4-cylinder turbo diesel, again, available in various states of tune. However, if that doesn't cut the mustard, there are two fully fledged, full-fat AMG models. There's the GLC43 AMG, like the one I'm in today, or there's a GLC43, which uses a 4-litre twin-turbo V8. It's the same 510 brake horsepower engine as found in my GT, in a family SUV. How ridiculous. Ridiculous! Oh my god. This GLC43 uses a 3-litre twin-turbocharged petrol, which is good for nearly 400 horsepower. 400 horsepower is the same sort of figure you got from the first-gen Range Rover Sport Supercharged, only this is 70% of the size. Which means, when you pop it into Sport Plus mode, the results are quite dramatic. Wow. That's properly quick. I've just lost the Kia Sportage that was sat right in my bumper anyway. Oh wow, that sounds really good. Wow. You might think that an SUV can't be that dynamic, but drive this and you'll change your mind. Should we go to Bishop Monkton or Burton Leonard? I love rural England. Oh wow, it's a 9-speed automatic this. I knew the regular GLCs used a 9-speed auto, but I thought the AMG models might have used the 7. A bit like my blue AMG thing. I'm properly loving this. I love the downshifts where it matches the revs. Watch this. So much power and agility from something the size of a Freelander. It's mad. Imagine if Land Rover made a Discovery Sport SVR. It'd be like this. The whole model range might sound a bit bewildering because there are lots of different variants, but your decision if you're thinking about buying one is quite easy, and it boils down to two things. If you live in a town or a city and you don't do many miles, then just go for a petrol. Something like a GLC250 has got around 200 horsepower, it's more than adequate. They'll average about 30 miles per gallon combined, but if you do lots more miles than that and you need extra economy, then go for a diesel. They're good for high 40s or nearly 50 miles per gallon combined. They're also slightly cheaper to tax. Although saying that, none of the GLCs are that expensive in the road tax department. If you're a proper petrolhead though and you like to go everywhere in a cloud of smoke and tyre squeal, then I urge you to go for an AMG. Because, once it's in Sport Plus mode, this is a beast. I feel like if my white car and my blue car had a baby, it would be this. In terms of handling and what it's like to drive, then it's typical Mercedes really. It isn't as pin sharp as a BMW, but nor is it as numb and clinical as an Audi. It sits right in the middle. There's nothing wrong with that. The steering weight's nice. It isn't too heavy like some BMWs, nor is it too light and numb like an Audi. It's just right. The GLC is far better to drive than most small SUVs, which are usually about as woolly as a librarian's jumper. It rides very nicely too. It is a little bit on the firm side, but it's not too stiff or uncomfortable. And don't forget, this is an AMG car with bigger wheels. I imagine a standard car with slightly smaller wheels will be a bit more comfortable. The AMG models actually come with adaptive air suspension. The standard GLCs don't. On the bright side, I suppose, on the standard cars, it's just one less thing to go wrong. There is a bit more road noise than you get from a Range Rover, but I think that's to be expected. Again, it's also a happy compromise. It isn't as quiet as being deaf, but then it's not as loud as being in a 911 at motorway speeds, where you'll wish you were deaf. It's a really nice car to drive and be in this. It's the perfect family car for somebody who hasn't given up on life. It's very easy to park and there's no body roll to write home about either. It just scores well on all fronts. Something I was amazed about actually is that all GLCs have Mercedes 4MATIC four-wheel drive system. In a lot of small SUVs these days, four-wheel drive isn't a given. In fairness, they know that the most off-roading an owner will do is parking on a curb outside the Trafford Centre. But it's handy to know that the GLC is a proper four-wheel drive. Another good fact for you is that all of them are automatic. Now, if you've ever driven a manual Mercedes, you'll know that that's a good thing, because they're rubbish. I've driven lots of Mercedes with this 9-speed auto box, and you'd think it'd be a bit too confused, wouldn't you? A bit too hesitant. Well, it isn't. It does a really good job. You'd never know that this wasn't just a 6-speed, but when you're on the motorway in top gear, it's in 9th gear and it just sips fuel. When it was new, the Mercedes GLC scored top marks on its Euro NCAP safety rating, which is a good thing obviously, but weirdly it only has 2 ISOFIX seats. What's weirder still is that the GLC is only available as a 5-seater. Now both Mercedes SUVs which bookend this, you've got the GLB and the bigger GLE, they're both available with 7 seats. Whilst we're still on the subject of weird, the GLC is also available as a coupe, which is quite a good looking thing. I'm not sure I'd go for the coupe though. I think I'd rather have the practicality this one offers. If you're thinking about buying one, there are a few things you need to know. Firstly, there are quite a number of recalls. Nothing to worry about really, but you should probably phone your local Mercedes dealer and see if there are any outstanding recalls. If they haven't been done, then they'll sort them out free of charge. And in 2019 it received a minor facelift. Nothing major, but you got a slightly better infotainment system, slightly better gauge cluster and a new steering wheel. In terms of trim level and spec, if I were buying one, I'd try and buy a Premium Plus AMG line. AMG line so it looks a bit sportier, nicer wheels, nicer grille, but Premium Plus so it comes with some nice toys and gadgets. You know, all the gadgetry that you'll raise your eyebrows at until you live with them, and then you won't want to be without them. Things like a panoramic roof, keyless entry, keyless start, a 360 camera, all that sort of stuff. In terms of reliability, I genuinely wouldn't have any concerns. Service them every year or 10,000 miles max, service the gearbox every 80,000 miles, run them on premium fuel at least every other fill-up, and you shouldn't have any issues. I'm not sure I'd bother taking it back to a Mercedes main dealer once it's out of warranty. I think I'd just find a local Mercedes specialist and stick with them. I've just had a full engine and gearbox service done on a C-Class Mercedes at SPR in Stockport, who I always use and recommend, and they charged me about 500 quid. I just think you can't really beat that. I just think it's far better to have a time-served professional working on your car rather than some spotty teenager whose ink on the City and Gills hasn't even dried yet. So I say this with a fair amount of confidence, but I'm sure this car will be more reliable than a Land Rover Discovery Sport, a BMW X3, an Audi Q5, an Alfa Stelvio. I just know it will. Used prices here in the UK start at around £20,000, but realistically you're going to have to spend about 25 to get a decent one. AMG models are 5 to 10 grand more than that, but they should hold the values well. Overall then with the GLC, you've got a stylish, practical family car without ruinous running costs. I'd have one, genuinely. Personally, I'd be tempted with an AMG model like this because who wouldn't want this in their life? It is a bit to me, this. Right, well, I think that's about it. So a big thank you to ALX for lending me the car in the first place. I'll leave their website below so you can have a peruse. They've always got some interesting stock in. Primarily they make and sell bespoke custom horse boxes, but occasionally they take in cars in parts exchange, and they're always interesting, so check them out. So yeah, thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave a link below. If you've got any comments or questions, let me know below and I'll do my best to get back to you. So yeah, cheers guys. See you next time.